Hi everyone, welcome to the Maybeception Show. My name is Fariba, and as I had promised to you guys, I'm going to finally do this breakdown of the Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping trailer. If you guys haven't been with my channel before, I've been doing a lot of Hunger Games content, especially when, we are getting the new films. Nowadays, it's just been the prequel stuff. The last one I did, of course, was Ballad Songbirds and Snakes, and back, what was it, 2023? Not only did I do a trailer reaction, but I also did a trailer breakdown of the specific scenes from the trailers. And I'm gonna try and do the same thing here. I mean, I want to keep this as a tradition, especially for someone like me who really loves the Hunger Games and actually has been catching up on all the books, and I still continue to be catching on the books I actually have read. Sunrise on the Reaping actually like sped through the whole book when it was released, and especially for a lot of you who may or may not know, the Haymitch story is the one that has been one of the most requested stories to be written, and now we're finally getting not just a book but also the adaptation now. So now, of course, the trailer came out yesterday, and initially speaking, I didn't think the trailer was going to drop yesterday. I was hearing the rumors about it. I thought it was way too soon. What I didn't take into account was that not only was the trailer releasing a year before the movie itself was going to be released, but it was also releasing 10 years, exactly 10 years after Mockingjay Part 2. That film was actually released on November 20th, 2015, and that was the conclusion of the Katniss Everdeen story. So, and since then, we've kind of moved beyond the whole Katniss story. That has now concluded. Now it's just been the whole prequel stuff. We had Ballad Songbirds and Snakes about 2 years ago, and that was a little bit more focused on President Snow, or a young Snow at least, up and coming President Snow, and of course Lucy Greybeard, who happens to be the only other District 10 winner aside from Katniss, Peeta, or Haymitch. And now we're finally about to conclude that quartet story with District 12 winners, which is now we finally getting Haymitch's story. And I cannot wait to do this breakdown. I mean, I will say this, and I will actually give a disclaimer before we even proceed further that at this point, we are going to be going to spoiler territory. So if you are someone who has not read the books, and actually want to go see this film blindly, I would recommend that you stop watching this video right now and do not go any further, because after this point, I'm going to straight into spoiler stuff. I mean, that should kind of be counterintuitive given the fact that this is going to be a trailer breakdown video. So we're gonna go straight into spoilers. But if you are someone who is very curious about what this film is going about, whether or not you've read the books, and if you're not someone who's read the books and you're very curious to see just what my reaction to it is, then feel free to do so. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things I want to talk about. Now, so that's a warning right there, disclaimer. This is your chance to finally, back out of this video, but otherwise, if you want to watch this video, get ready for this trailer breakdown because I'm really excited to kind of just go back into the trailer and kind of just dissect some of the scenes. Now, one thing I will say is that this was just a teaser trailer, and if you can tell from this trailer, it is very quick. It doesn't have a whole lot of dialogue. It doesn't really focus on specific parts within a couple extra seconds. It's very quick. It kind of goes from one visual to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. So it's gonna take quite a while just to kind of pause and just talk about certain things because there's just so much that's being shown in the trailer, but it's not specifically focused on one thing. We don't actually even get a chance to see Haymitch before being read, so that's a whole nother thing. It's just basically you see Glenn Close kind of opening up, the Reaping for the 50th Hunger Games, and then we go straight into the games, and then we kind of just see some snippets here and there with Haymitch, whether it be in the games, some snippets of him in District 12, and then that's just kind of it. But we'll kind of discuss some things because I feel like there's a lot of key stuff that they actually did show that they showed in the trailer. I was really shocked that we were getting like, specific scenes from like specific big stuff from the trailer. So I'm excited to dissect it. I'm gonna do what I did before. That I'll open up the trailer. I'm gonna watch it, dissect it, kind of either my give my analysis, my commentary of what this scene could be about, whether or not something that is very clear or not, giving my reaction to it, and then what I anticipate for, whether or not it hit my expectations. Of course, one thing I will say is that props to Lionsgate, whoever they hired to do this trailer, because I'm not gonna lie, the trailer itself, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, for something that's supposed to be a teaser trailer, and that's actually 2 minutes, they do such a great job of really honing in on the danger, the urgency of what this game is going to be about. It's going to feel Like, I mean, we've seen the games before. We've seen it with the 10th, we've seen it with the 74th, we've seen it with the 75th. We know how deadly these games are. I mean, just the whole idea of it is just brutal, but nothing compares to what the 50 is going to be like. And this trailer gave us a sense of that, you know, for sure. So yeah, without further ado, I'm gonna start this trailer reaction or this trailer breakdown right now.
Welcome, Panem, to the glorious reaping of District 12.
Okay, so let's just stop there. So if you guys don't know, I feel like a lot of people are just discovering this online. That's Glenn Close. That's Glenn Close playing Drusilla Sickle. So her character is basically the equivalent of Elfie Trinket in terms of like kind of being the host of the Reaping for specifically District 12. And she actually, I believe, predates Elfie Trinket. So yeah, that's Drusilla. I think her name is just Drusilla Sickle. It's played by Glenn Close. One thing I will say is I'm very excited to see what's going to happen with that. Unlike, because I think she's a very different character from Elfie. Because Elfie, she is someone who, even though she is a little bit gullible, sometimes a little bit naive, even in some cases privileged, she is someone who still has empathy. She really did care for Katniss. She really did care for Peeta. She got really close with them. She even got close with Haymitch. As a result of that, like there were still at least some redeeming factors about Effie in the original Hunger Games trilogy. And again, we'll see her in this movie as well. We can actually see a glimpse of Elle Fanning later on in this trailer. But unlike Effie, where she was just like, at least one of the good people of Pan Am, Drusilla's not that kind of person. I mean, if you're expecting anything similar to Effie, um, just get rid of that. She is diabolical. She is someone who does not give a shit about about the troop, especially anybody from District 12. This is something that I'm very interested to see because for those who have actually read the book, you'll know that she has quite a relationship with Mace Lee Donor. I cannot tell you how excited I am to see McKenna Grace as Mace Lee Donor because oh my god, like Mace Lee, because I mean, for those who've actually again read the book even before we kind of knew a little bit about Macy Donor, the one who was actually the other District 12 tribute who was with Haymitch up until I think the top five. And not only that, but she actually is very closely connected to the Mockingjay pin because the original owner of the Mockingjay pin was Macy Donor. Um, she was the one who owned it originally. Then it got handed off to her twin sister, who actually became the wife of the governor or mayor, something like that, of District 12 later on. And their daughter would eventually inherit that totem. And then that daughter, I think, was like, crap, I forgot her name. But that daughter would then hand that off to Katniss. That was at least in the books. They changed in the movies. In the movies, like Katniss actually found the Mockingjay pin. So, so that's how they changed it up. Like the donors are not even mentioned at all in in the original trilogy. Whereas in this, like we're finally acknowledging the fact that donors do exist because there's really no other way to kind of address that she's a key player. So, yeah, I am very excited to see what's going to happen there because if there's somebody who's going to stick it up to Drusilla, it's going to be Macelia, and I cannot wait to see that dynamic. I was honestly astonished just to see Glenn Close because I was very curious how they're going to really accessorize her character. I mean, she has quite a description in the book. I think in the book they were kind of saying how she kind of has like this, this tiger-like look or something, or she's like wearing this like leopard print or something like that. Or maybe I'm getting that confused with another character, but I do recall that her fashion sense is a very interesting choice. I mean, that actually becomes a key part of why Mace Lee is so, you know, is so rude to her because of her fashion sense. And so I cannot wait to see that. I mean, I already got this, and I gotta say, I mean, even though it's not exactly from the book itself, or at least I'm not remembering some of the details from the book itself, this is kind of giving me a sense of like, okay, this is truly Drusilla. I mean, they kind of got the essence of Drusilla right. She is somebody who is a little bit out there with her fashion sense. I mean, she has the bob cut, she's wearing yellow, she has these things around her temples, then she's wearing this. I don't know, the scroll-like hair, which I think was in the book. I can't remember. Pretty sure that detail was probably in the book. The two people on the side, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember who they are exactly. I think they may have been some of the stylists, but I'm not 100%. They could be the stylists, by the way. Which again is a very key part of of Effie's story. But I have to say, I think even if it's not exactly detailed from the book, they nailed the Drusilla look. She's someone who's really diabolical, someone who has a really outlandish sense of fashion. And I'm not gonna lie, I feel like watching like just this first glimpse of Glenn Close here, you kind of get a sense of Cruella de Vil, but one that's like even more diabolical. As I said, she is not anywhere near like Effie. I mean, even in the book, you get a sense of the contrast between Effie and Drusilla. And again, I cannot wait to see because I mean, again, we don't see any of that in this trailer. I would wonder if they're gonna maybe show this in the CinemaCon trailer. Maybe again, I have the prediction that they're gonna show like the more full trailer is probably gonna come in CinemaCon 2026, which is usually around like April. That's probably what I would guess is when we're gonna get our next trailer. Next, so that one's gonna be a little bit more of a full trailer, like one that's similar to what we got with Battlestar vs. Snake. So, but yeah, great first look of Glenn Close right here. I mean, again, probably closer to Cruella de Vil than ever before, and I cannot wait to see how they're going to execute the story, at least in terms of before the games.
District 12.
Oh my god, look at the smile too. Like she really nailed it. She really, really nailed it here. Ah, the arena. Huh? Oh my god.
Twice.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause this right here because I was very curious about how the design is going to be for the arena because this is something that has been the most speculated thing for not just since the book's release, but since the details of Haymitch's game was revealed in the Catching Fire book. Now, for those who may have not read the books, I will tell you right now that a lot of us actually have known details about Haymitch's game as early as Catching Fire, the book, not the movie, the book. The book actually kind of, I believe it's like Katniss and Peeta were watching like videos of previous games because they were going against other, victors who've won the games before, and now it's like they had to kind of watch their strategy and study them. And then I think at one point they played Haymitch's Hunger Games, and that's where they kind of describe, and you can see Katniss is describing what his Hunger Games was like, the fact that his gut was slashed in half. The fact that it was between him and a girl with an axe. The fact that basically Jonah was mentioned in that in that Hunger Games, and at least the snippets that they got. So yeah, the details of this was known long before. The book that we finally got was a much more detailed, more accurate account of what happened in Hunger Games. Because I mean, at least what I knew from Catching Fire, it's like when you read this book, it's just kind of like, whoa, hold up. I did not realize that these kinds of things were happening, and that a lot of the things that were edited in the Catching Fire clip was just what was edited by Pan Am, right? It's not the full story. So, and then the book itself actually gives a full story. So, but one thing for sure is the arena. This is something that I was very curious about. I actually had already seen some of the first looks of the arena when the set photos were dropping. I think back in July, and it was basically just this, like the colorful flowers, the spiky looking cornucopia, the fact that they're around like the meadows, mountains. There's an active volcano. I mean, this is just about as accurate to the book itself as it can be. I mean, and I mean, just looking at it, right? I'm just like, wow, the arena looks so incredible. It looks so beautiful, right? Like you're looking at from the sense of your first look, but then you're like, looks can be deceiving. Like that's the best way to describe it. Looks can be deceiving, and just because something looks beautiful doesn't mean it's harmless. And again, we don't get a whole sense of this in this trailer, but I don't even think they gave a full look of, what the creatures, what the plants are like in this arena, but we know that it's not as harmless as it seems. I don't think we got a sense of that in this trailer. At least there wasn't any glimpse of it, but still, I think this is the perfect visual, perfect imagery of what I expected this Hunger Games to look like based on what has been described in the book. And I mean, this just looks absolutely perfect for now.
The number of tributes. White.
And I love how the cornucopia too is colored in the same design as the book. So I don't have the book right now. It's like right there, and I don't want to pull it because it's gonna cause them things to crash. But the book, if you guys see the actually, hold on, I can actually grab it. Okay, so the book cover. So this is the book cover. The book cover is purple and yellow, which is just the same color scheme that we see here in the cornucopia, or at least inside the cornucopia. You can see some of the backpacks over here. You can see some of the players and their cloaks. But oop, yeah, so yeah, I knew something was gonna fall. But but this is a book for Sunrise on the Reaping, and of course this color scheme is absolutely perfect because if you actually seen the I think it's like a color chart or something like that. But purple and yellow are complementary to each other, so it's like this is like the perfect color that blends with each other. I mean, honestly, this is like a beautiful cover, a very very beautiful color, a very very beautiful book. I was always wondering like how they're going to do the cover for this book, and I mean, this is absolutely beautiful. And we'll talk more about the symbol in just a second, but you can already see how Francis Lawrence and all the other creative team members really put their effort into kind of executing the key things from the book. And I mean, specifically coming down to just the color itself. I mean, you see the yellow, you see the purple, beautiful, perfect. I mean, I gotta say, I mean, even the cornucopia looks absolutely gorgeous. Again, this is just giving the sense of this arena looks gorgeous, but we know it's not harmless. It's very deadly for a reason. So, but yeah, what a beautiful color scheme. What a beautiful design. I think this is honestly one of the most beautiful cornucopias I've seen so far. I mean, we have we have seen four games so far, and I think so far this is the best one. But absolutely beautiful.
The glory.
Okay, so kind of rewinding a little bit. I mean,
The glory.
you can see a sense of everyone's outfits. I was not aware that they're going to be wearing clothes. I think that was one of the few things I was a little bit surprised of, and maybe that's something I just missed from the details from the actual book itself. I do remember the color scheme, so of course District 12 is going to be black, or it's going to have that streak of black. I believe this is the girl, Luella, or if you are someone who has read the book, you know that's fake Luella. I think they called her Lulu. So this is fake Luella, but she is the District 12 girl, the other one that wasn't Mace Lady. So this is Lulu or fake Luella. So she's there, right? We can see other players. You can see their streak of colors. Again, the way that they execute their color scheme is based on their district. So black will be for District 12 because they're the mining district. So we see that here. Again, we see a little bit of a better look at the actual arena itself. The pinks, the greens. I mean, just how colorful it looks. And then we see more mountains on the left side right here. I mean, it's just absolutely gorgeous. Um, again, so very, very key character, Ampert, and I'm not looking forward to this. If there's one thing I'm very, very scared about right now is how they're going to execute his. I should not even be saying execute right now, but how they're going to visualize his death. So again, this is a big spoiler. So if you've not seen or if you've not read the books, I'm giving you this warning right now. I'm about to kind of talk a little bit more about this, and I think there's actually a letter trailer about this. But for those who already know, this is Ampert. He is the son of none other than Beatty, a previous Hunger Games victor from District, I think 3, because he's technology. So that's his son. We know that the reason why his son was placed in the games was that it was actually rigged. Beatty was trying to do something behind Panem's back, and he got caught. And as punishment, they put his son in the Hunger Games. And for those, again, if you are somebody who is watching this video, watching this breakdown, and have not read the book, and you're just wondering, oh my God, is this person going to be like a Rue? In a sense, yes. And I will even say even far worse than what we saw with Rue's death, because at least with Rue's death, it wasn't as brutal. Yes, it was heartbreaking. I mean, I'm not gonna downplay the death of Rue, but and how it impacted Katniss, but Hayes' Rue was Ampert. He was clearly his Ampert. But not only that, I mean, not, it's clearly his route, but not only that, but he has probably one of the most shocking deaths. I honestly, I still remember. Now, I will talk. Actually, I'm gonna hold off on this because I'm gonna talk a little bit more about my reaction with that. But yeah, that's Ampert. I am not looking forward to seeing that death. But we kind of get a sense of his first look right here. I'm so afraid of what we're gonna learn, see. But yeah, there's Ampert. And it makes sense that Ampert is nodding to Haymitch because they're the ones who are very closely, allied in the books, or at least in this game. I mean, they were kind of really getting close to each other, at least in the book. Right before the games, like, I mean, there was a lot of discussions about being allies and whatnot. But there was also, if you're someone who's read the book, of course, there was some planning going on to kind of try and try and destroy the Hunger Games. I think that was kind of the big plan here, try to destroy the Hunger Games from within. Again, he is the son of Beatty, someone who is openly against Pan Am, openly against the Hunger Games. He is trying to stop this kind of brutality, stop this kind of fascism, and and considering the fact that he knew that his son was not going to make it, right? That this was his one chance to try and destroy from within, and then that's kind of where we have Haymitch and Emperor working together. And then, again, just looking at this and just them seeing to just nodding to each other, I'm just kind of like, oh my god, like I was like, oh, we know that there's a reason why they're nodding, but I'm not looking forward to seeing what's gonna happen later on. But there you have it. By the way, again, this is just a setup. He's playing young Haymitch. I gotta say, like, he's really honing in on the whole Haymitch role. I mean, I can't really give my verdict on whether or not he is able to reach the strides of how Woody Harrelson was able to execute the character because we haven't really seen him at least act out his character. I mean, we only kind of see him in certain bits and pieces here, so it's like I can't really give my whole opinion about that. I think it's just too soon to call as of right now. But so far, he looks good. I mean, we see the blonde hair. Again, I know a lot of people are getting confused. Like, why does he have curly hair, but Haymitch has the straight hair in the original trilogy? It says in the book that he has curly hair, and I think it's like later on he has the straight hair. But yeah, just a setup. Young Haymitch. I'm looking forward to seeing that full trailer we get later next year, just to get a sense of his kind of Haymitch and whether or not he's able to really emulate the whole rebelliousness of who Haymitch was later on in in the trilogies that he is now as a young tribute.
It's time for this.
I gotta say, again, I'm telling you, whoever did the editing for this, incredible. I mean, so many effects. You get the sense of the danger. It's like you can really get the goosebumps. Again, brilliant
Six
editing.
quarter quell.
Again, the red hue. So, if you guys don't know, McKenna Grace is playing Macy Donor. She's the other District 12 female tribute. We're gonna see a lot of her, especially in that second half, I'm sure. But yeah, I mean, I feel like, and I'll say this, like for the longest time, I always had a sense that McKenna Grace was the perfect casting for Masilla Donor because if you guys have not watched the fan made version of Hamilton's Hunger Games, long time ago, a long time ago, when the Hunger Games was just really at its peak, there was actually one YouTube channel. I can't remember who they were, but if you probably were to search it up, you'll be able to find it. But there was one YouTube channel that was actually able to create a skit of Haymitch's game based upon the details from Catching Fire. As I said, Catching Fire actually gave a lot of, good details about what happened during Haymitch's game, and they were able to They were able to recreate his Hunger Games. And the girl who's playing Macy Donor looks not far off from McKenna Grace, and so I've always like I mean just because of that that family movie. I've always imagined that there's gonna be somebody like Macy. It had to be someone like the girl from the fan made version. And I think the closest person was McKenna Grace. So I mean, honestly, just in my mind, I was like, okay, McKenna Grace is probably one of the best people to play Miss Lee Donor, but if she went to be cast, and then the moment that we learned that she actually got the role of Mace Lee Donor, I was honestly in shock because I was like, whoa, this is like actually one of my fan castings for it, and this one actually came true. Although again, it was a very popular fan casting, and I think it just made the most sense. So Mace Lee Donor. McKenna Grace. I mean, I think this is actually the movie where we had some of the most perfect casting because just about everything that has been a fan cast came through, and we'll see a little bit more of this later on this trailer. But here's one right here, McKenna Grace as Silly Donor. I cannot wait to see her as Macy. I'm just hoping that she really hits the spirit of who she is. Someone who really back talks, someone who's no nonsense, someone who's still, even though the fact that she may show herself as someone who's mean spirited, someone who is very entitled, deep down there is something that makes her empathetic and someone who actually is caring. It's just like I can't wait to see that. I'm so excited to see Macy. Like honestly, Macy Donor was my favorite character from this book, even over Haymitch. I mean, she was just wow. And I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say any more further about that, but as I said, of course, again, look at this again, the production, the production of this is just wow. I mean, I wonder if they did the same thing with Wicked, where they just got like 100 million flowers that they ordered and just planted all around. Although I highly doubt, because I feel like from the set photos they didn't really have a whole lot of flowers, but who knows? But again, a whole idea of the colorful flowers in the meadows. So we see water. Okay, so I think I have a sense of what this scene is. So this is maybe the first scene that I haven't really digested, like where this could be coming from. Just because there's been so many things that they reveal in this trailer that it's just like it's really hard to kind of catch up on what we've seen. Like I feel like every time I'm watching the trailer for this movie, it's just like I'm finding new things. I would imagine because it looks as though I'm seeing two black jackets, two black shirts, and the person behind Hamish, it looks like Maceley, that this is kind of them finally meeting up after for so long because they were separated for a long time, at least in the beginning of the game, and they didn't actually start reuniting until the later half of the game. So I would imagine that this is kind of the scene where they're kind of just recouping, they're kind of recovering, they're near the water. Oh, and I believe the water itself is poisonous too. So very dangerous part right there. The water itself is not even edible. Like I think it's like made of metal or something like that. And I gotta say, you cannot even see that from this trailer that this is like a poisonous water that's made out of metal. So I'm like, ooh, I'm very interested to see how they're gonna execute that. But it looks as though that this might be Haymitch and Macely, either Haymitch or Macely or Haymitch and Fake Luella. But from the looks of it, I see a blonde female. So I think this is Macely. So this is probably where they're just finally kind of together and working as as a team to kind of beat out the other players that are around. And even with the closer look, you can see a blonde female. I think she's one of the. Oh, I think I remember who she is. I think she was one of the last. I think she was the last person. I think she was the finalist who goes up against Haymitch in the end. I can't remember her name from the top of my head right now because it's been such a long time since I read the book. But they keep showing her a lot, and I think there's a very good reason for that because if I recall, the two finalists end up being Haymitch and then one female tribute, and I believe she's a female tribute who battles out with Haymitch at the end, and again eventually gets knocked out by Haymitch again. A whole thing that we'll talk about later in this trailer. And yeah, I mean, you can just get the sense of her confidence that she is one of. I think she was like one of the career people. So yeah, we're seeing Ben Wong for the first time here. He plays White Kello. You actually already seen him before in The Long Walk, and he actually just did, and that was actually with Francis Lawrence. So this is now their second film, straight film together. Um, Interesting casting for sure, but I also was like, okay, it makes sense because he just worked with Francis Lawrence. Cannot wait to see his character. He is far more prominent, of course, in the first half than the second half in the movie. We kind of know what happens to him later on in the book. Again, for those who read the book, you know that he was actually one of the first few characters to get killed. The cornucopia. It was like what the bloodbath. Um, Actually, to protect fake Luella. So I don't know if they're gonna show it specifically because one thing for sure that I really enjoyed the movies that I think the movie does a really good job of that the book cannot really do is that the books themselves are based on the perspective of the main character. So, the first three books with Hunger Games, Catching Fire, and Mockingjay, they were all through the perspective of Katniss Everdeen. We don't actually read anyone else's perspective. The Battlefield Emergent Snake was based on the perspective of President Snow, so it's not like we got to see the thoughts of Lucy Gray Baird because she was not really the first person in the book. It was President Snow, whereas here it's Haymitch. So I wonder if they're gonna actually show White's death here, or if they're just gonna do it as like in the book where they hear from passing. So, but yeah, we see White, we see Ben Wong as White. I think there may have been a fight. I think from maybe earlier before, but yeah. Okay, so here's one where Haymitch is with fake Luella. Oh man, not the flowers. Not the flowers. Um, Okay, but yeah, he's with fake Luella because they eventually, because I think he's like, she was like one of the first people that he was able to meet up with once the game had started and once the bloodbath itself had ended. They're together for quite some time. I believe, I don't know if this is where, I don't know if they're hinting at if whether or not this is the pod where, I think it was like certain kinds of bees or no, the flowers themselves may have been poisoning her, but we know for a fact that it was maybe like she dies pretty early on, but I don't know if it's maybe coming from this specific pod because I think some of the flowery areas is where they have these hidden pods underneath and they activate at certain points. And so I wonder if this is kind of like one of the first few. I wonder if this is kind of like hinting that this is kind of where we're gonna see that big moment for her. So, but yeah. Okay, so we see. Oh, oh, we see the cave where they kind of go through, and then that's where they're gonna have a whole fight with other tributes. Oh my God, the details, the details. But yeah, I remember it being super, super dark. We see Hamish, we see Mace Lee. They're about to enter through this cave. It was like a horrible idea, but they knew that they had to kind of get some, tributes or something like that. But or they had to cross from one side to the next or something like that. But yeah, we got a little glimpse of that cave. I think that's something that I haven't really been able to picture fully based on the book, but I feel like what I may have been picturing is what I'm getting out of from this book, from this visual right here. Oh, again, it's not a full look at it, but just from what I can see so far, I think it's just about what I would have imagined to be that cave looking forest looking area. Again, more the cornucopia, more, and again, there's 40 tributes, so this is double the amount of tributes from what would usually take place in any kind of Hunger Games, and that's because the 50 Hunger Games was actually second quarter quail. Again, for someone who's read the books, you would know that every 25th, every other 25th annual, there's a special condition that they add to the Hunger Games just to kind of spice it up. The 25th, I think, is one that they had the district actually pick their own tributes rather than actually doing a reaping. The second quarter quell is this one, the one that Hamish is in, where they double the amount of tributes. And then in the third one, the one that Katniss had in Catching Fire, that's the one they actually reaped victors from past Hunger Games, and that they're gonna basically re-enter the games once again for like the second time. So yeah.
Let the 50th Hunger
Oh
Games
my god.
begin!
Oh my God, yeah. So again, that's just a little bit of a glimpse of Haymitch in his games and a lot of players going through. Again, that's just the beginnings of the bloodbath. But here, again, can we just talk about let's just talk about the scenery here. It's just absolutely beautiful. It's just mesmerizing. Like I've never seen something so beautiful like this ever before. And I mean, that's just again giving you the false pretense of what the arena is like. Again, beautiful scenery. It's just like wow, this is like maybe again, this is why I keep saying this is like probably going to be the most beautiful looking Hunger Games out there. Even though again, looks can be deceiving, but yeah. And then we get a first look at President Snow. I believe this is the only visual that they've shown to us so far of who President Snow looks like in mid-age. I believe by this point he's around like the 50s. He's already the president, so he's already been, elected president. Um, this is the only thing that we got of him. I think what really surprised me is that we kind of see the long hair. So I was like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that, but you can get a sense of I mean, again, I have to probably wait until like the new trailer comes out, but already good look Ralph Fiennes. I mean, if there's somebody who is probably be able to be a great successor to not just Donald Sutherland, but also to Tom Blythe, it's gonna be Ralph Fiennes. I mean, I mean, it's kind of funny because he's already played a really major villain before, which is Voldemort in Hunger Games. Not Hunger Games, sorry, in Harry Potter, and he did quite a performance with that. And now it's like he's once again playing not just any iconic villain, but he's playing the iconic villain, which is President Snow in his mid age. You can see the flower, the white flower. I mean, this is where we know that he's already been dealing with some health problems. He's been, coughing up blood. Sometimes he might have a splumel, so that's why he wears the white rose or some kind of rose to kind of um, to hide that scent. And he's wearing red. That's become quite a signature color. We saw that throughout the original Hunger Games. We saw that at the very end of Battle of Songbirds and Snakes, where it's like he had gone, how Blight's version had gone through this whole transformation by the end of the book. I mean, end of the book, plus in the movie, he goes all red, right? And that becomes his distinguished signature look. And we're seeing that continue here again. This is just the only footage that we have of President Snow, but for again, he is quite prominent in this story, far more than I actually anticipated. Like I thought he was just gonna maybe show up maybe once or twice, but he actually is he appeared quite a lot in the book. So I would imagine that he's gonna be just as equally, you know, important in this movie as ever before. So yeah. Or ooh, okay. One thing I will say now that I'm actually looking at this, okay, so I will say that I think this could, okay, so you know how um with the Hunger Games, at least the Katniss version. I don't think they did this with the tenth annual, but you know how they always have those chariot things where they have the tributes come out of, to come out to go see, how they're basically kind of having this tour in a way where they're just like in a chariot or something, and they're just like kind of presenting themselves to, the audience. It's just kind of like this way of like I don't want to say celebrating them, but kind of just cheering them on or whatnot, just to kind of give a sense of what these tributes look like. I think now that I'm looking at this, because I'm looking at the background of what looks to be kind of like a stadium type. I believe this is where they're kind of doing the presentation for the tributes, where they're coming out in those chariots, and again, there's a huge accident, a huge accident. Things go totally wrong, um, even leading to some deaths or one major death that really hits Haymitch. Again, I feel like a lot of people are like, "Oh, does Haymitch have a root?" He does have a root, but I think it's not just one root. He has like multiple roots in this movie. Um, but I think in this moment, I think this is probably the part where Haymitch is probably carrying the real Luella who dies as a result of the accident that happened here with the chariots and all that, and that he's looking at, or he's kind of intimidating President Snow, and that's probably his reaction looking to it. I think that could be it. Now that I'm looking at, because I'm just kind of like, because I remember when I was watching this trailer a couple times before, I was like, what is he doing? Why is he staring at? What is he staring at? Now that I'm like looking at it closely, I'm like, oh, this could be the moment where Haymitch really confronts President Snow, looks him eye to eye for the first time. So, quite a powerful scene. Again, I wonder if I'm correct on this. I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong. This could be for something else, or that maybe he's just talking about the second quarter quail, or maybe giving like a heads up that hey, this is second quarter quail. This is gonna be. It could be anything, honestly. But I think my best guess for what this scene could be, given the fact that how he's reacting, is just like I think this is where there's that accident with the whole chariots thing. So I think that could be again. I could be wrong, but hold up. And then they find the pods. Okay, again, I'm telling you, I keep watching this trailer and I find new stuff every time. Again, so we see Ampert and we see Hamish together. We know for a fact they're on a mission to try and kind of destroy the games within, to kind of create a spectacle that would show the weakness of Pan Am, especially the government under President Snow. And I think at this point they may have found one of the pods because the only way to kind of get through inside the games is to go through the pods. And I think this was their spot of finding one of them. Again, there's a lot of things that happen um, during this moment because I think they actually entered the pod and like a lot of people who were working the Hunger Games, like the actual like technical people, whatnot, or the management people. There you go, the management people kind of come face to face with them. I'm imagining this is like right before that's about to happen because we know that they work very closely with each other. Again, Amber is just one of many ruse in this movie. Again, I'm not. Well, again, there's one thing I'm waiting to see, but yeah, this is the. I think this is the pod. And then we see Ampert and Hamish, and then we can see how close they are to each other. Because as I said, they really create quite a bond. Quite, I would say, the closest to the bond that we saw between Katniss and Rue and Hunger Games. Because, as I said, Hamish had so many Rues. I mean, honestly, he's just one of many Rues. But I think this is probably me the closest to it, just because of the stakes of it all. Like this is the one. Like I feel like in a case like this, like Hamish really felt like he was his brother. And if you guys don't know, Hamish has a younger brother who was just about the same age as Amber. And we'll talk a little bit more of that big moment later on. But yeah, I mean, you can get the sense. Oh my God, I wish we can get the full trailer just to see more of this. But you can get a sense of like, oh my God, like this is gonna be so tragic, so devastating. I wonder why he's running. I don't know why he's running, so I'm just gonna skip over him. But oh, Plutarch MSB, Plutarch MSB. Can I just say that? I mean, it's just so heartbreaking that we lost Philip Seymour Hoffman. Like I think he died right before Mockingjay Part Two was released. But I mean, here's the thing. Like I think right before they were doing any casting for Sunrise on the Reaping, I was like, oh my God, like maybe the most perfect casting for young Pluto Heavensby is going to be Jesse Plemons. And of course, there was a whole rumor mill about like, oh, it looks like Jesse Plemons is going to play Pluto Heavensby, and then of course that was confirmed. Now, just like there's just no other person who's going to be perfect to play Pluto Heavensby or young Pluto Heavensby than Jesse Plemons. Like, let's be honest, he is literally like the amalgamation of Phyllis and Mohawk. I mean, he does have a son. He actually, I believe his son was actually in The Long Walk. So his son has actually worked with Francis Lawrence. But I mean, if you're gonna go by like resemblance and someone who's a little bit more mid-age, or I wouldn't even say mid-age, I think like someone who's in his late 20s or maybe mid 30s. I think Jesse Plum is actually hitting 40s, but I think he's okay to hit mid 30s. But honestly, when you look at Plutarch, I mean, this is maybe the perfect imagery of Plutarch. I mean, this is actually accurate to the book. Now I'm thinking about it because he does have the long hair. I remember the long hair. Um, Again, the way that he's like really kind of like insightful and very observant about things. You can really get the sense of that already. Like he's really embodied. Like I'm only watching this. I'm only looking at this first image right here. It's just a 1 second clip. We don't even get to see him talk. And I can already tell that he's already embodied Coulter's Heaven's Beat. Like the way that he's glaring, the way that he's watching, the way that he's being observant. Um, he's gonna be a very interesting character. I mean, let's be honest, he was honestly the perfect person to be playing Coulter's Heaven's Beat. This visual proves it right there. Again, I actually gave a fun fact that I believe it was the master Justin Clemens and Philip Seymour Hoffman was actually in a movie together. They actually played father and son in The Master, and it just again that just proves why that he was the perfect choice for this role. I don't think there's really any other person who'll be able to play this role, not only to just embody the look, but to really embody the physicality, the emotions of Coolidge Hemsby, of at least Philip Seymour Hoffman's version. And I think, wow, just looking at this, I'm like, perfection. I mean, as I'm saying, this was a movie that really was like hardcore on the fan casting and the perfect casting. Like we'll talk more about this in a second too. And again, if you guys don't know, this is Lenore. I think it was like Lenore Dove Gray or something like that. Again, she's actually related to Lucy Greybeard. I can't remember how they. I feel like there was a lot more speculation, more so than any confirmation of how she's connected to Lucy. But they are from. But she's from the Coven, or yeah, the Coven. Yeah, the Coven. That's like the gypsy like looking group. Um, I can't remember if it was like her cousin that they're related through. She's not Lucy's daughter. Just to kind of clarify that she's not Lucy's daughter, but you can get the sense of her having that coven kind of that energy that she has. She's really rebellious. She's someone who's really very outgoing, free spirited. You can see the goose here. I believe goose were her favorite animals or something like that. Um, and she's playing music, so that's like the Coven way. Now, I think by the point that we get to 50 Hunger Games, they actually banned, um, the performances by that point because, of course, President Snow and his relation with Lucy Gray Baird, he probably, banned the whole like Coven thing. Um, but yeah, that's her, Lucy Gray Baird. I mean, honestly, she. I think I remember when they were casting for Lenore that I was like, okay, they casted Whitney Peak, and when I was doing like a side by side foot image of her and Rachel Zegler, I was like, holy shit, they really look alike. And I mean, it makes sense because they are actually related. So it makes sense that she would look just like Rachel Zegler. But yeah, honestly, again, perfect casting right there. I don't think we're gonna see a whole lot of her because again, she's just there beginning at the end, and that's about it. But again, very tragic story that I'm not ready for, not ready for because it's so tragic, so sad. But you can really get the sense of just how much Hamish is in love with her, and how it's one of like his favorite stuff. And then, oh my god, I told him. So if you guys are not able to, if you guys are realizing like, okay, this looks so familiar, like where am I seeing this from? That's a Striker. So Lenore gave that to Haymitch, and that Flint Striker just so happens to be the shape of this book. So you can see the snake in one end and the mockingjay in the other hand. Um, and that's also the look of this movie as well. But also it's a very key thing that helps Haymitch win the Hunger Games, right? So you can see he's flicking it to kind of create fire. It's a very important item for Haymitch and his way of winning the games. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm trying to remember if there was anything else with it. I mean, this is basically the Mockingjay pin to Hamish. That's just how it is. I mean, this is very close to him. They don't know that this is kind of like a weapon that they're bringing to the arena. They think it's just like some kind of accessory, but it's not. It's something that is actually very useful in creating fires. It actually becomes useful for him when he, by the end of the Hunger Games, or at least his Hunger Games. Um, Ooh, I wonder what this scene is because I believe this is kind of where they're trying to regain the trust of a lot of the allies, or trying to create the allies or alliances with other districts that weren't the careers. Um, I wonder if that kid is Rilo or something like Rilo. I want to say that's the kid. I can't remember. It's been a while, guys. I've read this like a long time ago, but I think this is like one of the kids that, again, another Rue, another version of Rue. Again, I don't even know what to tell you. I do remember the kid that was like the top three kid, and then the details, man, the details. We'll see more of that later. Ooh, we'll see more of that later, clearly, but. Ah, okay, so we see more of fake Luola right here, or as we call her, Lulu. You can see that he is using that totem that he has to create fire. Again, a very useful thing. We see more flowers, we see more of the meadows, we see more of the trees. Again, it's a very beautiful arena, but again, not a very harmless arena. The blood, I'm assuming the blood is White Callous blood because he's the one who actually was protecting her, and then she just ran away. So, and again, like her and Hamish eventually reunite at some point. So we see that. And then first look at Elle Fanning as Effie Trinket. I mean, honestly, can I just say my reaction when I was reading the book? I mean, they were so like for those who don't know, the reason why she actually gets introduced is because she's related to one of the stylists who's actually been graded. Like she's being graded for for their styling for the District 12 tributes. And a lot of things go, you know, out of control. So really, Effie comes and saves the day with her costumes and everything like that. But I remember when the way that they were hyping it up in the book, like the way they were like, "Oh my god, like somebody's about to come in to help," or that her sister, I think it's like Persephone or something is her sister's name. Um, it's like gonna call her sister come and help them out or something like that, or it's gonna bring somebody. And I thought it was Tigers at first. I was like, oh my god, Tigers gonna come back, blah blah blah. And then when I read Effie, I literally screamed. I remember screaming. I was like Effie. I'm like, what? I was like, what's the age difference again? Because if you guys remember in Mockingjay Part Two, Hamish and Effie have a have a sweet kiss. I think it was a sweet goodbye kiss though, but yeah. So I'm just like interesting. So and I'm like, okay, this is gonna be very odd because I mean, one way it's like, oh, we finally see the humble beginnings of Effie and Haymitch and how they became associated with one another and how they got to know each other. But then I'm like, but these two guys kiss each other. I'm pretty sure Effie's probably like at least a couple years older than Haymitch. But I was like, okay, it's probably not a huge age difference. But maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, and again, Elle Fanning was a fan casting for Effie Trinket. Again, she was not only a fan casting, she was also in the rumor mill, and then of course they confirmed her casting. I mean, she is just absolutely one of the most perfect castings for Effie Trinket. I cannot wait to see her portrayal of the character, especially because again, it was so well done by Elizabeth Banks. But not, I mean, just even looking at her now, it's just so odd because you can see how audacious her fashion sense is. Like she's really out there. Like she's really bold. She's really big. That's just how she likes to, dress herself up. Even with colorful wigs, we don't see the colorful wig, we see her with a blonde wig. So it's just like this is like more of a toned down version of Effie, but of course she's just young, right? So, but yeah, I cannot wait to see more of her. We'll see more of her, of course, in the movie. This is just a quick glimpse of her. I believe the person in the back is like one of the stylists. So, but it's just interesting to see her actually meet Hades. It's just like, oh my god, like wow, just wow, the whole fan service of it is just amazing. Okay, so we have a much better look at that of the like burnt forest that Haymitch and Macy go through again. There's a lot of action takes place around this point. Again, I don't think they're gonna show too much here, but and then we see a close look at Macy. I mean, she looks bloodied, she looks tired, she looks worn down. Again, they don't reunite until halfway through the 50th Hunger Games, so it takes a while. But but their alliance is probably the most important in this game. And she becomes actually one of the most important allies to Haymitch. So, yeah. Oh my god, I'm gonna say this. I cannot believe they showed us this visual so soon. Like absolutely so soon. I initially didn't even recognize what this scene was about because everything's going by so quickly that I'm like, oh, this is just another accident. And I'm like, wait a minute. I remember rewatching. I'm like, wait a minute. This is not just any scene. This is the end of the Hunger Games. So again, for those who read the books, you know that by this point it came down to two people, Haymitch, and I believe that's the girl, the blonde that we saw earlier. Um, that is going after him. I believe she's a district tribute as well, career tribute as well. So she's like one of the tributes from districts I think 1, 2, 4. Um, and so it came down to them two. And I remember the axe. Like the axe is the big thing. The axe is what slashes Haymitch's gut by half or something. So she strikes him. And I believe, from what I can, oh my god, I cannot believe this, but I believe this is where he's getting closer to the edge of the cliff because he's about to do the whole thing with the explosion. Um, and it's just right there. So I'm like, oh, not just that, but I remember that if you in the book, and even in both Catching Fire and this book, or I can't remember if that was. I think they showed it in Catching Fire that when she throws the axe, it kind of because Hamish ducks down, and because of the fact that there was a force field right behind him, because he actually figured out there's a force field to the whole arena, that because of the fact that he ducked and that the actual axe deflected and kind of became like a boomerang of sort, that the axe himself kills that finalist, and that's what basically declares Hamish as the winner. And I mean, I cannot believe they showed this. Like I was so like, wow, like how holy shit, like they really kind of showed like one of the biggest moments in the Hunger Games, like literally the end of that book. So, oh my god, I'm just like, like this is just absolutely perfect. And then again, that's so yeah, this kind of confirms that she's the one who is the finalist. That ends up battling with Hamish because she's holding that axe right there. Okay, so the pod. So I think in this part, this is where they finally spot a pod, and I think they had just opened it up. I think like the bees or something had came out. So they opened the pod. And this is where they're trying to like put some like in detonator or something like that that would like destroy um something within that would then open up the arena. And we can see that right here. Like again, this is a plan between him and Amper, and this is something they were planning on ahead of time. And again, this is like one of the pods that they were able to spot. And again, a lot of consequences of this because they actually end up killing like three management people from within, and then again, consequences and punishments. So uh, aha. Okay, I think I know what this is. This is again more fighting scenes. I can't remember which district this is. Again, the colors get blurred at times. I'm just like, oh, but lots of fighting. Just solo. Can I just say I cannot believe they went that far. I cannot believe they went that far. Um, Yeah, this was so devastating to read in the book. Just so I say to everyone, this was so devastating. I did not anticipate that they would make this happen so soon. Because again, it was well known even back in Catching Fire that after Hamish had won the games, that everybody that he's loved were basically executed by Pan Am, by the Capitol, including his lover, including his girlfriend, including his brother, including his mother. Um, and we knew that this was going to happen eventually in the book. I just didn't expect that it was going to happen so soon, and you can already see the sense of shock and distress that Hamish is going through just to lose his brother and his mom right here. I mean, again, everyone's seeing the fire. It's already too far gone. There's no way to saving them. I cannot believe they showed this part, and I'm not ready to see the full scene of this. I think like right after the Hunger Games ends, and then when they start going back to kind of his normal, or I won't even say normal, but going back to his lifestyle in District 12, it just gets too emotional, too sad afterwards. It's just all tragic. I mean, this is a character where you just really start to realize that this is a guy who lost everything, and the only reason why he, was able to revive his hope is because of Katniss. And this becomes a key thing in the epilogue too. Like, I mean, as I said, I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the epilogue, when I read it, I honestly broke down in tears because I was just kind of like, and it was only a two-page epilogue, two-page epilogue that managed to make me drench in tears, and I couldn't stop crying for like a good 2 hours because I was just like, this is a character that really deserved better. And again, this is a scene that I'm not prepared to see because this is just a whole roller coaster of tragedy that Hamish is going to go through, as if that isn't going to already happen from like the beginning of the movie. But yeah. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna pause this. I have a very good sense of what this scene is. And again, another scene I'm not ready for. Honestly, one of the most brutal accounts in the book is reading the death of Ampert. Um, I cannot even tell you like how shook I was when I read the details of his death. Like I was like, okay, these are just gonna be like any other deaths, whatnot. But the detail of how Emperor died, I was shook. I'm honestly very curious how they're going to handle it in the books. So again, just to kind of remind everyone here, I think a bunch of like killer squirrels or something, like squirrel-looking creatures. Um, it was either squirrel or bat, I can't remember, but it's some kind of animal was um was meant to target Ampert because as I said before, Ampert is the son of Beatty, and the reason why Ampert was put in the games was actually rigged because of the fact that President Snow wanted to punish Beatty and make sure that he saw Ampert die on the arena. And I think the idea was to hope that he died quickly and painlessly, but honestly, the way that they detail his death in the book is probably the most disturbing, the most brutal deaths I've ever read ever, because they eventually realize that certain pods are meant to target certain districts that they feel like they're ready to kind of, kill off. So basically kind of like rigging the games. And because President Snow specifically had one targeted for Amper, which is I believe I'm pretty sure it was like killer like squirrels or something like that. And he was basically being broken up, was basically being uh mauled to death to the point where you only saw like his white bones. Like that's how they described it in the book. And when I read that, I was just kind of I literally was just I just paused. I was like, Susan Collins did not go that far into describing the death of like a 12-year-old boy who was basically mauled by like killer squirrels up to the point where you only see his white bones. Like I was shook, and that's when I started to kind of question, like, is this a movie that even is going to be able to maintain its PG-13 rating? Are they gonna have to make some changes to their deaths? It's not just it. There's another one at the very end as well with like one of the characters like heads being like decapitated. But this is where I kind of really start to question, like, is this movie is it really worth making PG-13? I feel like this is one that really needs to be R-rated to actually show the full scale of how brutal this Hunger Games was, even in comparison to any other Hunger Games that we've seen before. This is probably the most brutal. Like, I'll keep on saying this is the most brutal Hunger Games that I have at least read ever. And it's like this specific death itself, or one of the two specific deaths, that really kind of get a sense of wow, this is arena's no joke. Let alone the fact that again, President Snow was behind the rigging of this death, and the fact that Haymitch, you can see the pain that Haymitch is feeling because he literally made a promise to Beatty that he's gonna make sure that if he ever does die, that it'll be painless, and then it doesn't turn out to be the case. So I'm pretty sure this is Amper's death. If it's not Amper's death, because I do see him. Mm, it could either be Amper's death or it could be Wilo's death. I believe that was Wilo. I think his name was Wilo. Um, because he's also holding himself. So I'm pretty sure, but I'm about 50% positive it's Ampert death that we're seeing right here. But either way, Wilo and Ampert had some of the worst deaths in this book because I'm just kind of like, how are they going to be able to do this with a PG-13 rating? Because there's just no way that they can get away with this. Um, and not be rated R unless they make changes. And I think they're gonna have to make changes because I don't see the flesh of the bones. So I think this is a sense of them already changing some things to the deaths. But yeah, it's brutal. And I mean, I was surprised that they even showed this as well. So these are like one of three scenes I was like, holy shit, they actually showed this too. I'm not ready for this, by the way. This one I was like, I don't know how they're like. This was like maybe the first season I was like, I don't even know how they're gonna even be able to create this in the big screen. But yeah, and we kind of get the sense of this right now, what's going on.
I think these games are going to.
And then we see the active volcano, which again is detailed in the book. And then we see Woody,
I
and then we
think
hear
these
Woody
games are
Harrelson
going to be
voice.
different.
I believe this is actually a voiceover from like one of the previous Hunger Games, so this is not specifically Woody Harrelson doing like any new kind of voiceover. Um, I wonder. I'm pretty sure the volcano eruption was done so to kind of clear out a lot more of the tributes because I think it took them a while to kind of get a lot of the tributes out because there's 48 tributes. So it's gonna take some time to kind of get to the one and only survivor. But yeah, um, and of course we get to the logo. We see his Flint Striker logo, but yeah, I do wonder because they do show Woody Harrelson. This is not far off from what they did with Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes because Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes had the same thing at the very end of the first trailer where we actually hear the voiceover of Donald Sutherland, but it's actually him reciting a line from like one of the Hunger Games movies, like one of the previous Hunger Games movies. It's not something that Donald Sutherland had like, just recorded a new kind of line just specifically for that trailer. No. Um Whereas we're kind of seeing the same thing here with Woody Harrelson because now his character is having a backstory dedicated about himself, and we're seeing that here now. Unlike Valentine Mistakes, where we actually never got to see Donald Sutherland, there's a very good chance we actually might see Woody Harrelson in Sunrise and the Reaping because, as I said before, there's a 2-3 page epilogue where we actually kind of fast forward to a much older Haymitch and kind of his reflection on his life and how much he had to wait and how it took up until meeting Katniss and Peeta to kind of finally forgive himself. And it was the most tragic, but how do you know how to describe it? It was the most emotional thing to ever read about Hamish, just because, I mean, it's like he's lost so many people, he's lost so much hope, and then it's like suddenly, like, his heart is like revived, even after kind of like wearing himself out and probably having a liver disease by this point because of how much he's drinking alcohol. But But just that last 2, 3 pages, like again, we have not heard any confirmation that Woody Harrelson, Jennifer Lawrence, or Josh Hutcherson are going to plan on returning. I would imagine there is plans to, just because there is that last bit in the book where they actually have something of that opportunity. Um, I would imagine that they would do so. I would not be surprised if Woody Harrelson would be happy to reprise his character and actually giving his character some closure, because that's kind of what it was, basically giving him some closure, especially after having gone through so much trauma and tragedy. And it's like finally for once, like he can sleep, like even like whether or not he's dying or he is dying, like he can now die peacefully knowing that, what he had gone through and the effort that he's gone through to kind of, help with the rebellion paid off, especially after having seen Katniss and Peeta. I mean, again, it's a whole thing in the epilogue. It absolutely broke me. But I'm so excited to see this movie. I think that's all in terms of the trailer breakdown that we have here, because I don't think there's anything else beyond that. It's just a logo, and then, of course. So, yeah, I mean, this is kind of the trailer breakdown of Hunger Games Sunrise on the Reaping. As I said, I promised that I was going to publish a video of this to kind of give my thoughts on it, whether it be the book itself, because the book actually it hasn't even been more than a year since the book came out itself, because they had announced the book and the movie simultaneously, so it's just like everything happened so quickly. And of course, like the Haymitch, I mean, specifically with this one, it's like there's a lot of hype for it because it's like one of the most requested stories out there, and now we finally get to see Haymitch's story, and I am very curious what's gonna happen afterwards. I don't know if it's gonna continue after this point, is this is the end, because it's like now we finished all the District 12 stories. Because there's only 4 District 12 winners, so there's no other District 12 characters to go through. Um, but as I said, I am looking forward to seeing this movie. I'm very excited to see it. Um, I've given my thoughts on it, especially in terms of the book, and what we saw in the visuals. I think overall, in terms of the first impressions of the trailers, I'm very ecstatic. It really hones in on the tone, again, the environment of what the Hunger Games are like. I mean, it's really kind of giving kind of this hint that, yeah, yeah, whatever you saw before the Hunger Games, just be prepared. That's kind of what you get the sense of with this trailer. I mean, it's like there is a lot of danger that you can feel from that trailer. And so far, just having seen the first footage, again, I've already seen some of the set photos, so I kind of already knew how some things look like the arena. But just watching kind of the final piece that we're seeing here, and how they're editing it out and how they're executing it, it's just like, wow, that they're really, really honing in and making sure that they are able to um, authentically genuinely create a story, and making so that they do it justice, because it is one of the most tragic stories out there. Um, I mean, just having read Sunrise on the Reaping, it made me realize that he is the most tragic character out of anyone else in this Hunger Games world, and it's just kind of like, wow, now you know why. When we were introduced to Haymitch, whether it be in the books or in the movies, why he is the way he was in the beginning, because he lost so much hope. And then it's just like to see that, to see what caught what led him to be the way he is. It's just like, you know what, you can't really fault him for it. And so I'm very excited to see the movie. Again, I can't give my verdict on Joseph Zed. I mean, he looks great. Now it's just a matter of seeing how he executes the whole characterization. And we haven't really got the sense of that because he doesn't even actually talk. He doesn't even actually talk in the trailer. I think we just hear Glenn Close in the beginning, and then I think we just hear Woody Harrelson at the end, and that's just about it. So, but as I said, if we're going to predict the next trailer drop, it's probably going to be around CinemaCon 2026. That's what happened with Ballads of Songs vs. Snakes, at least, because the first trailer actually dropped at CinemaCon, and then that's when I actually did the whole trailer thing and the reaction and the trailer breakdown, all that sort of stuff. I'm expecting some of the same thing here, because I feel like at this point, it's just too soon to be releasing any new trailers between now and April, when the movie itself doesn't come out until November. So, but it makes sense again why they dropped it yesterday, because of the fact that it was 10-year anniversary, plus the fact that they were exactly 1 year away from the movie's release. So it was like a double thing that they were like, you know what, a double celebration for the Hunger Games, might as well. And funny enough, ever since the trailer had dropped, I had so many people texting me about the movie, like even more so than Ballad of Songbirds. And I was like, whoa, like where were you guys for Ballad of Songbirds? And it's like now everyone's here for Sunrise. So I'm already expecting a lot of hype for Sunrise on the Reaping, at least the movie version. But more so the fact that I am just like I don't even I'm just I need to take the time to prepare myself for this film because I do not know how I'm going to feel when I watch some of the key moments from the book be created on the big screen and then just the reaction to come out of it. I mean, I'm excited not just for me, but for people who have actually not read the books. So there's gonna be a lot of key like shockers and twists that I cannot wait to see everyone else's faces when they digest that information for the first time. And it's just like I'm very excited. I mean, I again, it's just as I said, I if you're someone who's new to this channel or hasn't really heard my story before, I've been a huge Hunger Games fan for since, just before the first movie was about to come out. Just to kind of summarize it, I'm not a big book person. I don't really read a lot of books. I try my best to do it so, but I'm just not, I've never really succeeded. The only stuff to actually have made to this is The Hunger Games. The Hunger Games is actually the one book series that I'm actually caught up on every single edition of every single installment. Um, but of course, all that started back in 2012, right before the first movie had just came out. The Hunger Games phase of the Hunger Games raid was just happening. People were talking about it. People were going like I even got to see Jennifer Lawrence when they were doing the whole tour thing. But yeah, the Hunger Games is a huge part of my life, a huge part of my sister's life. And yeah, I mean, just when I thought that my Hunger Games era ended back in 2015 and then got resurrected in like what 2020, no, it was 2020 because that's when Ballads came out, and then of course we got the movie 3 years later. So it's like just when you thought that your middle school era has ended, it's just like it's now coming back to you. I mean, when I was in middle school, I was like what I was probably like 14, 15. No, probably even younger, to be honest, like 13, 14. I'm now 28. So that tells you like how things have changed since. So and yet this is like the one series that's always been there for just about a good chunk of my childhood, plus even my early adult years. So yeah, I'm very excited for this. This is why like this is one of those cases where I've actually put a lot more attention to the Hunger Games just because of how much it has impacted my life, how much it's influenced me. I've even done, dressed up as Katniss Everdeen for like 2 Halloweens. I actually have like my jumpsuit somewhere. But yeah, you can tell from the back. I have a whole bunch of posters. I actually have more over here somewhere. Yeah, I have actually one right here somewhere. But yeah, the Hunger Games has been a huge part of my life. But yeah, I hope that you guys have enjoyed my reaction video, and I just did my breakdown video right here. I know there's a couple of details that I may have forgotten, or maybe I wasn't able to go too much in depth, but otherwise, I've given my whole output on this. I hope you enjoyed it. I cannot wait to hear your thoughts about it. If you guys have any theories or stuff that you want to mention, or if you feel like there might be some changes or some things that you want to debate about, especially the whole thing I mentioned about the PG-13 versus R rating, or whether or not this movie may get an R rating. Let's talk about that. I want to know your thoughts about some of the castings that we talked about, some of the key moments, like the house fire, the end of the 50 Hunger Games, and even the death of Ampere. I want to know your thoughts about this, especially if you're someone who's actually read the book. I want to know your thoughts about those key details. Let me know your thoughts below, and make sure to like and subscribe.